For us, it's a daily thing.
It's every day, right?
This is Mammoth Daily
We're going to take you inside the locker room
with Mike Fulta.
We want this show to be about the fans, and we want this show to be driven by our Utah Mammoth community.
And Adrian Denny.
Fans can submit what they want to hear us talk about, what they want to hear Utah weigh in on. It's all going to be here.
Here's Mike and AD with you.
Utahns, countrymen, lend me your ears.
Right here on Mammoth Daily.
Welcome into Mammoth Daily. I'm Mike Fulta here alongside Adrian Denny. We are your Hockey Night in Utah radio crew. AD, coming to you from what might be my favorite hotel here on the road that we've just discovered in Carolina. We're out in the woods. There's this incredible pond, lake nearby. It is gorgeous. It's a little cold. There's still snow piled up. You can see here in Carolina, but it is great to be, walking around with pine straw crunching underneath. It's not quite sunny Florida like we had the last few days, but really enjoying this road trip and enjoying it more because of the way that this Mammoth team is playing.
Another win, Mike, on Tuesday in Florida. And guess what? Back tied with Tampa Bay for the most wins in the NHL during the month of January at 10. And Mike, maybe the most impressive thing overall over the last month and a half for Utah is the way that they've bounced back in every situation, every sign of adversity. 7-1 after a loss going back to mid-December is really unbelievable. And they're putting up over 4 goals a game after those games that they haven't won, as they did against Florida with that empty netter that Barrett Hayton got. But
you mean the game-winning goal?
Yes, the game-winning goal. Yes. It was for
designate it however you want. For Barrett Hayton's sake, we'll choose to call it the game winner.
It was with that goal scored with under 15 seconds left by the Panthers that made it 4-3, and Vitek Vanacek had to make another save before the night ended.
Yep.
So it truly was the game-winning goal. Thank you for the clarification on that one. But to put up 3 goals plus that empty netter that was the game winner against the Panthers after the game they had in Tampa Bay, it's just kind of what Utah's done over the last month and a half. They've been able to hit the reset button and start from scratch. And it started against Detroit. That game they lost in Boston December 16th, and 0-0 went out and beat Detroit, who led the Atlantic Division at the time. And Mike, on these back-to-backs, we talked about it on Tuesday night on Hockey Night in Utah. The team on the back-to-back, they usually come out okay. First periods are fine, and then second and third periods, there's kind of a tail off. And the Panthers tied the game up twice in that second period, but Utah was always there to finding a way to get the next goal. And at 2-1, I felt like they were in control. I felt like they were winning the game, even when Florida tied it. Just the way they responded 54 seconds after the first one, it just felt like a game to me that Utah was in control. And we talk about the goals they're getting, averaging over 4 a game after the last 8 games that they haven't won. How about 4 more goals in 6 of the last 8 games for the Mammoth? Pucks are going in, and without Dylan Gunther and Logan Cooley for just the third time in team history on Tuesday night. So impressive. Just some loose ends from that game. But Mike, 10-2-1 now in January, 8-1-1 in the last 10, which is great because everybody below Utah is now all of a sudden winning every game. San Jose, Seattle, LA's back on track. The NHL is so funny. 500 keeps you in a playoff spot at Christmas, but not a month later.
Yeah, and that's why it's been important for the Mammoth not to just rest on their laurels after you win the first game of this road trip. You beat Nashville. That's the big one you have to get. And even we were saying, AD, you win that game and you kind of roll the dice for the next 3, right? And you see what you can get out of the next 3. But the Mammoth played really well against Tampa, played really well against Florida. We'll get to the Carolina game tonight here in just a little bit. You were mentioning the fourth period effect when you're playing a back-to-back, and the team that is coming off the back-to-back. They're coming off a night before where they played. They play well in the first. We have numbers to back that up. We're not just saying that. The goal differential in the first period for teams across the league that are playing in their second game of a back-to-back, it's like -8 goal differential in the first period. So there's an effect, but it's close to level. The goal differential, once you get to the second and third period of the team that's in that second game of a back-to-back, it's up above -20 league-wide. So there's a tangible numerical effect with teams kind of tiring out as games go on in that second game of back-to-back. AD, we talked to Jack McBain at one point during our radio broadcast, did a walk-off interview with him, and he was saying it was a fun game. And I've heard that a couple times now from guys on this team, that these are fun games. They're competitive, fun, meaningful games. And I think this team is really enjoying playing in these big spots and rising to the occasion.
And they beat Florida for the first time. They played them really well, actually, in the first 3 games. But to get, that first win, and yeah, Mike, these guys haven't been in this situation before, where they're in a playoff spot, where the NHL thinks they're gonna be in a playoff spot, where they believe, okay, we've got the tools here. This is it. We're beyond the fact of just wanting to play meaningful games in January, February, March. We want to go out and do it. So you can kind of feel all 3 of those things coming together for the Mammoth. And Mike, you gave the back-to-back stats. Utah outshot 10-7 in the first, outshot 16-7 the rest of the way. They just kept it simple, picked their spots, found a way, stuck with the program, and got the win against a Florida team. First win ever against Florida. Nick Schmaltz got his first goal in 16 games against the Panthers. Andre Tourigny won his second game ever against Florida in 5 years as an NHL coach. So not a lot of individual successes either, but I missed one on the Wednesday edition of Mammoth Daily. Mike, Mikhail Sergachev, his first goal in 21 games at the Amerant Bank Arena, including regular season and playoffs. And he was
had it on the
member
radio.
of the Lightning forever. You had it.
Come on, I was +1. I threw it out there for you.
You had it, Mike. And I'm going back through my notes, unpacking everything. I'm like, I didn't mention that, naming all the firsts that happened in the game. I got to pull that out in loose ends on Thursday's edition. But you were right on top of it, as always. But how about that? Like, Sergey's played some big games there. He's played a lot of minutes there, but had never gotten a goal there. And it's a tip in from 27 feet.
Yeah, and I thought that top pair obviously was really good, and you said it on yesterday's show. Sean Durzee's night was Utah's night. I thought that was a good way of describing it, and just some, try and give some insider knowledge here without betraying any trust or anything. But we saw Sean Durze leave the game against Tampa, right? We saw him go down the hallway. He was really, looked a little worse for wear, taking that hit from Girgensons. He left that game early. We heard from head coach Andre Tourigny that morning in Florida, the next morning after Tampa in Florida. And we heard him we saw him and heard him. He raised his eyebrows when he was asked by Cole Bagley about the lineups. And he goes, we got a bunch of game time decisions tonight. And so, when we, the broadcast crew and the media that's there, we hear that, we're looking around like who's in, who's out, who was included in this. We assumed Durze was a game time decision because of what happened the night before. Again, we don't know how that unfolded throughout the day, but when you hear that there's a bunch of game time decisions like what Bear told us, that means there's a bunch of guys that are playing through something. And that whole day, I don't think there was any of us on the broadcast crew that went into the game against Florida thinking like, oh yeah, we're 100%. We feel really good about our game right now. I reached out to our friend Sam Farnsworth to get some Utah BYU trivia in case things got out of hand. AD, like I was at that stage, and Sam delivered. Sam delivered. He sent me a note about let's see, I got it right here. Number 1 ranked Miami coming to Provo in 1990 to play against BYU, and that launched Ty Detmer's Heisman Trophy winning season. BYU ranked in the top 5 for most of the rest of the year. He brought up Tyler Huntley and Zach Moss, a couple of Utah Utes, both from Miami. Zach Moss, a guy I go to church with and play basketball with from time to time. NFL players, the both of them. And then he was also mentioned in Miracle in Miami. Obviously, you got Dwayne Wade, Miami Heat, owner of the Utah Jazz. So, but I bring all that up just to say I was preparing for a blowout. On the broadcast side, I was getting ready to tell some stories and tell some jokes in the third period because we didn't know who was going to be in. Simashev flew over from San Diego, right? Like we didn't know who was going to be in, who was going to be out. So just a real character win, I thought, from a group that was playing at less than 100% capacity. So we can move on to Carolina, AD, and unless you want to close up, I know we've gone long here on Florida a couple days after, but just really impressed by this team in a game I didn't think they were going to win.
And Sean Dursey, Mike, our assumed game time decision, we saw his face, right? And goes out, he's your third star of the game with a goal and an assist, and a guy that Utah dressed 2 extra defensemen during warmups. Weren't even sure that Dursey was going to be in the game, and that's hockey, baby, as John Forsland said, right? Man, that's just going out there and just making it happen, and that's what they did. And I thought Sean Dursey led the way for that. Let's get to Carolina, Mike. Big one, Matt McConnell with you and Nick Olchek on your morning after on yesterday's episode said, let's get greedy. Let's take 3 out of 4. Yeah. Let's go into Carolina. Let's do this. What an opportunity for the Mammoth, Mike, on a road trip where we just wanted to beat Nashville and see what else happened. Now a chance to make it 3 out of 4.
Yeah, and you look at the 3 Eastern Conference teams that the Mammoth see on this road trip, Carolina being the last of the 3, and they're all really good teams that have all been playing really good hockey recently. We know that Tampa had that 15-game point streak right before they played Utah. We know that the other night Florida had won 3 in a row. They had won 6 of 8. They were trending upwards. Well, Carolina has been at the top of the league virtually the whole year, and they continue to ascend. They've won 7 of their last 10. They're high atop the Metropolitan Division, where they've been for the last couple months here, really since that we all kind of settled into the season. Mammoth got run out of the building last time they were here in Carolina. Didn't play bad for the whole game, just made a couple crucial mistakes, and every time the Mammoth made a mistake, it ended up in the back of their net. These are 2 really good 5-on-5 teams meeting tonight. AD, you have 2 top 6 5-on-5 teams going head-to-head. Mammoth have been great at full strength. Carolina traditionally has been great at 5-on-5 under Rob Brindamore. And in a Rob Brindamore coach team, they're going to put a ton of pressure on you. They're going to shoot the puck a ton, and they're going to smother you in the defensive zone. So they typically dominate the shot and shot attempt numbers in games. They have so far this year, second most shots on goal as a team, fewest shots on goal allowed as a team. And Andre Turney can tell us about the significant differences between Carolina and Florida, which there are. But from a fan perspective, as you're watching this game, on SCG Plus, I think it's going to stand out. What's going to stand out about Carolina is some of what stood out about Florida, how they put continual pressure on you for 60 minutes, and that's been their recipe for success ever since Brindamore's been there.
Yeah, Mike. Second in shots for, first in shots against. You remember Corral Melka last year stopping 49 of 50. All they do is shoot the puck. They're kind of helter skelter. They're a different team to watch. 4th best record in the NHL, leading the Metropolitan Division, been atop the division all year, and they've had some big injuries. Jacob Slavin missing over 3 months for Carolina. Their best defenseman, Seth Jarvis, one of their top forwards, has missed some time. They haven't played since Saturday. They scored 3 in the first against Ottawa, beat them 4-1. So they've been off for a while. And they've got Brandon Bussey, Mike, in between the pipes. How about this kid? He's not a kid. He's 27. He's 19-3-1. He was signed by Florida in the offseason after 3 years basically playing in the ECHL and the AHL for the Boston Bruins and their affiliates in Providence and Maine. Gets signed by Florida, gets put on waivers after training camp, claimed by Carolina. He's on the opening night roster, wins 10 of his first 11 starts in the NHL. 19-3-1 is his record for Brandon Bussey. You see right there in your graphic.
And they've needed him, Adrian, because Pyotr Kochekov, their really good young Russian goaltender, is out for the rest of the year due to injury. And then Freddie Anderson, their other goaltender, has just not been very good this year. His save percentage is around .860. He's got, I think it's like a 7-10-1 record, so a losing record. And so, they've needed somebody in net who can give them a chance to win every night, and they have that in Bussey. It's one of the better stories in the NHL this year, maybe the best. Adrian, I think he was driving to Charlotte, which is the AHL affiliate of the Florida Panthers. I heard he was on his way to Charlotte to report to the AHL when he learned he got picked up off waivers by Carolina, and so he just kind of took one exit earlier and pulled off in Raleigh as opposed to making it all the way to Charlotte.
Boston loved him, right? They hated to part ways with him, right? They did everything they could to keep him for the last 3 years, even though their goaltending situation was pretty solidified. Then Florida was excited to have him, and then Carolina claimed him off waivers. So fun story in the NHL. We mentioned Jacob Slavin. He'll be on Team USA with Clayton Keller. He was one of the stars last year on Team USA in that Four Nations Face-Off tournament. Really introduced to the general hockey population, I think, in that Four Nations Face-Off as good as he played. And when he's in the lineup, they're 6-1-2. When he's not, they're 25-14-3, which is still really good, but much better winning percentage when Slavin's in there. His parents are from Canada, but he's got dual citizenship and using the Colorado residence to play for Team USA, so we'll take it.
Yeah, I think it's Colorado Springs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I knew his. I worked with his brother Josiah in the American Hockey League. Josiah played a little bit in the NHL with the Blackhawks, but a really good family, just like incredible people. I haven't met Jacob, but Josiah is one of the best guys you could meet in the game. But bringing up Slavin, it reminded me, we were in Tampa a few nights ago, and this is the night before we played. I'm out at dinner with some of our TV crew, Adrian, Paul Hemming, Doug Foster, Eric Breezy. Those are guys behind the scenes that work in the TV truck. And we were doing, I kind of goaded them into an NHL snake draft. If you had to start a team right now, who would be the players that you would pick to start a team? And I forget who it was. It might have been our director, Paul Hemming. I can't remember, but one of them took Jacob Slavin with like their third pick. Remember, there's only 4 of us here. So, the first several rounds are going to get the best players in the world, right? It's going McKinnon, Makar, McDavid. Someone takes Celebrini because they want the future. Slavin went like in the second or third round, and I'm like, Jacob Slavin, really? You could have Quinn Hughes. You could have some of these elite players. But I think I was surprised by that pick a little bit. But when you think of the Four Nations and what he did against the best in the world, and he doesn't possess the offensive dynamism that a guy like Quinn Hughes or Cale Makar has. But gosh, as far as winning stick battles, as far as reading plays and breaking them up in the defensive zone, as far as being frustrating to play against, Adrian, Jacob Slavin is at the top of that list.
So watch out for him tonight, folks. He wears number 74 for the Carolina Hurricanes, who are going to be dressed as the Hartford Whalers tonight, Mike. It's Whalers night
Really?
in Raleigh. Yes. So they will have everybody decked out. Brass Bonanza will be playing the fight song of the Hartford Whalers. So what's on tap to wrap up the trip?
I didn't know we had a Whalers night. I did not know. What do you think of that? Like, let me ask you this, AD. When you've had rebrands before and you're broadcasting a game, do you call the team on air by the rebranded name, or do you stay with like the actual name of the team?
I stick with the team. In the road in Tucson, we had an alternate identity for the Roadrunners. We'd be Elazo de Tucson. And Kim Cotter-Robles, our public address announcer, would refer to the team as Elazo de Tucson throughout the night. For me, it's the Roadrunners in their alternate identity. So I've had several of those, but I've always just stuck with the first team name and the nickname throughout. You
are boring, and so am I. I'm trying to remember. In Rockford, we rebranded as like the Screw City Ice Hogs, because Rockford was an industrial town that manufactured screws. So we were Screw City. And I just keep it with Rockford, I think. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Hurricanes broadcast, Mike Maniscalco, I think he might call them the Hartford Whalers on TV.
I was watching an Avs game, and here I go again, Mike. I was watching an Avs game a couple weeks ago. Thank you. As they were dressed as Nordiques, and everything on the broadcast was branded Nordiques. The score bug said Nordiques, etc. I typically watch broadcasts with the volume down, so I didn't hear what Mark Mosier and Mark Rycroft were calling him, but it was totally branded for the Nordiques from a graphic standpoint.
Well, the branding's not surprising. Not surprising there. That's pretty typical, but just using the name on air.
But the score bug had Nordiques. Yeah. Like it was like, did we just miss something here?
No, I think that's standard issue. If you're doing like a full there's a difference between a rebrand and your alternates, right? Like you could have alternates where you're not like changing the team identity in the branding for the game, right? But the rebrand is a little different. I think Nordiques was a big deal for them too, because they hadn't used that jersey before. Anyway, all of this to say, I don't know what I'm gonna be calling them. Probably Carolina Hurricanes, but we'll see if I get instructed to do anything different. But AD, we've gone on long enough here. Let's get to Tyson Nash. We brought him in as our Thursday expert. He's got a couple of NashCast shows coming up, alternate casts. He'll be in Salt Lake City once the team returns home for the last few games before the Olympic break. But great to talk with Tyson, Adrian.
Always love bringing him on, and we have a good time and talk about some of the guys on the roster and some really solid seasons that are happening as we watch it. So stay tuned. We're with Tyson next. We're talking about the NashCast that you got next week and the latest edition of the NashCast podcast, which you can catch after us right here on Mammoth Daily.
Expert analysis, expert opinions.
Well, it's time for our Thursday experts edition of Mammoth Daily, and we bring in Tyson Nash. Why? Because he's got 2 shows coming in to Salt Lake City, hot and heavy next week. What is it? Monday and Wednesday, Nasher? Did I get that right?
Yeah, February 2nd, February 4th, Fultz. I just want to know who canceled. Someone must have canceled because I got the late call, AD. What's going on? Who canceled? It's like that foursome, right? You get the late call. Hey, we're teeing off in an hour. Can you make it? I'm like, yeah, Rick. Here I am. Great to be here, guys.
You know, Tyson, you'd be our Thursday expert every week, but we don't want to wear you out, man.
AD, your nose is gonna grow like mine if you keep telling lies. Okay,
you know how conscious I am about my nose, Tyson.
Hey, it looks good. It suits your face. It suits your face, buddy. Unlike mine, it's like an elbow. Look at that thing. I'm trying to grow the faux hawk, so it kind of, I don't know what you call that thing, the rooster.
Tyson, you do a bunch of stuff with Amazon Prime. Do the TV people, do the TV powers that be, do they tell you like, yeah, grow out the mullet? Or do you just do whatever you want and they're like, yeah, I guess this is fine for TV?
False. You clearly don't know me well enough just yet, but I kind of dance to the beat of my own drum. But yeah, it is what it is. I show up and go, and somehow they let me on live TV, if you can believe it. So it's been a ton of fun. Some great guests. But it's a thing. This thing is a thing. So we're going with it.
Tyson, what have you seen around the NHL as you've been going around with Amazon Prime? We love to bring you in and ask you because for us, it's Utah Mammoth 24/7, 365. And for you, it is too, but you have the opportunity to go out and see what else is happening, hear from other folks. What are you hearing? What are you seeing?
Well, a lot of chatter about the Mammoth, right? I mean, that's the exciting part for me is when you take a step away from an organization that you work for, you get a different perspective of what other people are seeing, right? I'm a big part of the NHL network, Amazon, some pretty big personalities who have some pretty big opinions, right? And they are all in with the Mammoth right now, which is exciting because sometimes when you're too close to the forest, you don't always see it, right? We believe it. We're paid by the team in ways, but when you hear it from guys like Chris Pronger and Mike Rupp and, Boyle and all these guys that have been around the league a long time, they're like, I'm thoroughly impressed. Clayton Keller, what he's doing since wearing the C on his jersey, that win the other night against the Philadelphia Flyers. I think we'll probably get into that, I'm sure, with you guys a little bit later in this show, but, it's exciting because I think everyone around the league is excited about what they're seeing and this team taking another step, which they needed to do. They've talked about playoffs at the start of the year. It was Clayton Keller that voiced his opinion and brought that up. I think in ways that was kind of a little bit taboo still with Bill Armstrong and Andre Tourney because maybe they weren't thinking they were quite ready yet. But Clayton Keller's like, nope, we're ready. We're putting it out there. If we put it out there, we have to back it up. And boy, have they ever done that.
Tyson, let's get right to it. That game against Philly, maybe the best game, like just from an entertainment standpoint that we've seen from this team ever since it got to Utah. But Clayton Keller takes over the game late. He scores a 6-on-5 goal, wins in overtime. How many times have you seen him or anybody else take over a game like that? Because that felt like we were watching something really special that night.
Here's what I'll say, and I mean this in the best possible way because it's in him, right? But years past, he has had games like that before. Nick Schmaltz, but when they didn't really matter, right? When they weren't that close, when they were out of the playoff picture, but right now, and I've said this before, this is when you have to bring it. This is when you have to take over those games. That's when you need a handful of those games this year in order to get into the playoffs, right? Because that's what it takes. And for me, that win, guys, was not only, and I watched your guys' show, it was unbelievable. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, right? But you could feel it. You could sense the comeback, that they were never out of the game. But to have a victory like that, the way they did it, that is a franchise-changing win. So not only a season, but a franchise changing, because now that is what and where the bar has been set, right? And I think that is important for a number of reasons. And now you're going to go on a tear. And look at what this team's doing. I mean, they're having the best stretch in franchise history. But again, that's how you get to the playoffs. It's a push to the Olympic break. and then you enjoy the Olympics and everything that entails. But that victory right there, you could see it on their faces. It was like, all right, we got this. We are playoff bound.
Tyson, in the last month and a half since we last talked to you here on Mammoth Daily, Karel Vejmelka has really gone into another gear. He had 8 straight wins entering the week, leading the NHL in victories. You've seen him for 5 seasons in the NHL. You saw him in that training camp when, he wasn't even ticketed to make the NHL roster, and he had that incredible game in Vegas, the last preseason game, and all of a sudden he made the team. But this has been just to another level, the way that he's been, especially in the last 6 weeks.
And again, I've said this forever, right? When you think of the great goalies around the league, you really can't think of their backups. You don't know who their backups. That's because the number one is so good. And nothing against Utah, the Mammoth, and the depth they have in the goaltender position, but that net right now is Karel Vejmelka's, and there's no getting it back. And I think that was an issue in years past, and maybe it was baby steps, from the coaching staff. We don't want to put, all this pressure on Karel just yet. Maybe we're not ready for it. But he's ready for it, and he's running with it, and he wants to play every single night. And those are the type of goalies that can take you to another planet, right? It's the Bobrovskys. It's every good goaltender that's ever won a Stanley Cup. That's what Utah has in Karel Vejmelka, and he's showing it. I think he's still leading the league in wins for a goaltender. And he's playing, and he's facing a lot of rubber, which is encouraging. He's a monster of a man. The guy is just a pure athlete. He's an absolute specimen as a human being, right? He's just a man rocket. Comes in, what is he, 6'3", 6'4", and he's shutting the door right now, and his team believes in him in front of him as well.
Going along the lines of Veggie, he catches with his right hand. He's a silly sider, right? Which is rare in the NHL. Not a lot of those guys. Most goalies catch with their left. As a shooter, does that mess with you? Because, there's a lot of guys who are probably thinking, okay, like, I know, we know I want to go low blocker. And then, boom, that's his glove hand all of a sudden. And you kind of have to remember that it's switched for Veggie. Like, at that level, how much of a difference does it make to face a guy who catches with the wrong hand?
Yeah, you know what? I've heard that before, and I do believe it affects shooters. Never affected me much because I usually just dumped it in the corner. I never tried to overstick handle. It was very rare that I got a shot on net, but I think it does affect shooters, right? They have their blocker, they have their glove side shot, and now all of a sudden it's changed, and now you're thinking about it, right? So I think it has an effect to a certain degree. For maybe the mid-range shooters and goal scorers in the National Hockey League. I think the elites, the Austin Matthews, those McDavids, it doesn't matter. Those guys they could have 2 goalies in net. It wouldn't phase them at all. They find the opening, and that's key. And a lot of guys, Wayne Gretzky used to say it all the time, when you're a goal scorer, you don't even look at the goalie. You don't see the goalie. All you look at is the meshing, right? And where do you see the meshing? That's where you shoot. It could be 5-hole for a big goaltender, right? He's, 6'4", 6'5". So when you're a bigger guy, you have a bigger 5-hole, right? And so that's more of a natural place to shoot for a goal scorer. But I found that fascinating with Gretz, right? You don't even pay attention to the goaltender. You just look for the mesh.
Tyson, as you look at the Utah power play in the last week, we've seen Barrett Hayton move back net front, and he's had a puck go through his legs, that Gunther goal that got Utah within 1 against Philly, and then against Nashville slammed in a Gunther rebound. Is that the key? Has that been the one thing that Utah's been missing on the power play? Is that guy like Barrett Hayton being right there in front of the net? Because the small 2-game sample size that we saw Wednesday and over the weekend really looked good, and that seemed to be the spot.
Yeah, that's the spot, whether it's 5-on-4, 4-on-3, 5-on-5, that's where the goals are scored, right? And if this team, again, is going to get to the playoffs, that much more. You need more guys hacking and whacking in front of the net, paying a price. You guys know, the NHL, you don't score on first efforts. it's usually the second, third, or fourth effort that finally gets the puck across that goal line. So Barrett Hayden, he has it. I've seen this kid play for a long time. Ebbs and flows, highs and lows for him. Staying healthy has always been a big thing for him in his career, and he's put up big numbers in his career. So I expect a lot from Barrett. He expects a lot from himself, and he is more than capable. He can play in your first line. He can play in your fourth line. He is such a huge piece to the Utah Mammoth.
One more for me, Tyson, then non-X's and O's related, but you've got your NashCast show coming up, an alternate cast where if people haven't seen, you guys are watching the game, but as you have guests cycle through, you're talking hockey, you're telling stories. Like it's a niche enough job just to call games normally, play-by-play, analyst. It's even more niche to have an alt cast where you're like watching the game, trying to do a studio show, trying to do a podcast, basically all at the same time. I just like the floor is yours. What is it like to do an alternate cast like the ones that you guys do?
Oh man, and Fultz, I'd love one time, I would love for you to just be there with me, beside me. You're so great on the podcast, Fultz. We all know that the fans love you, clearly, but it is literally something truly special to sit with some of these guests, some of the co-hosts. We got Matthew Barnaby coming on for the February 2nd and February 4th show. I cannot wait. This guy, you talked to before we start taping. He's an absolute nail gun. He really is. He is so excited about coming to Salt Lake. I can't even tell you. He's off the wall. He wants to ski. He wants to, do every possible thing that we can think of when he comes to Utah. So I can't wait for the fans to sit in there. First of all, we're like zoo animals, right? We're sitting there behind this glass, and everyone's like looking in, seeing what's going on, and yeah, the game's going on, and sometimes we get so entrenched in some of these stories that these guys tell. We've had 12, excuse me, I got the hiccups. We got 12, 13 Hall of Famers on the show. I don't know how many Stanley Cups we've had run through that studio.
Yeah.
It is it's unbelievable. And the stories, they just fly off the shelf. They're so organic. And that's what I miss most, right? Is sitting there hot stoving with the boys and just laughing. And one story turns into 10, literally. And I'm trying to watch the game at the same time and be like, we just scored. Because you got to interrupt them in ways, right? Sorry, I don't know what's going on with these hiccups, but I'm excited. I can't wait. It's a tough show because, first of all, it's like herding cats, right? You got to get these guys to show up on time, the timing of it all. I got to book hotels now. I got to book flights for these guys to come in. But it is literally, it's been just so much fun, and Amazon's picking up on it. They've asked about it several times. What's going on?
Wow.
Should we be doing a show like that? Like, that is insane. Because obviously not a ton of history in Utah as far as alumni and all that stuff. Can you imagine though, doing a show like that in Toronto, Detroit, Philadelphia, Chicago? The people that they could have on that show, access to all the NHL, alumni, just to come in and tell their stories, because everyone has a journey. Everyone has a story, and some of these stories are just remarkable because we all see, the end product, right? We see the end product. You see the players on the ice. You see all that good stuff, but so much adversity goes into it. The highs and lows that we see as broadcasters, but as a player, my God, like East Coast League, American Hockey League, NHL, the fights, the grind that it takes to get to the National Hockey League. Now we're seeing players playing younger and younger, it seems like every year. But just the stories that these guys have are remarkable.
Tyson, the record for the NashCast, a couple more victories in December against Seattle and Winnipeg. That points percentage is pretty good. So we're excited to go into the Olympic break with a couple of NashCasts next Monday and Wednesday. You can watch it, folks, on Mammoth Plus, SEG Plus with the game. Just click on the NashCast for the Altcast, and you can see the game. Tyson and his guests will be telling stories, analyzing some of the game, and we love our NashCast. Tyson, do you know the updated record by chance?
Oh, AD, I was leaving that up to you. Stats are not my thing. You and Fultz live for that stuff, right? We're the analysts. We just tell the why, right? We just tell the why. It's been hot. I can tell you that. You don't need the NashCast right now, though. The team is on an absolute tear. Hopefully that continues as this team just continues to roll along. I know you're on a road trip there, Fultz. I could see it must be somewhere hot because I can see the furnace face right now. The tomato, you were clearly poolside in that Speedo of yours yesterday. So hopefully the water was warm. The story of my career, I always took cold showers apparently.
And Tyson, as we let you go, the NashCast podcast that dropped on Wednesday. What's coming up on the NashCast podcast this week that you have for us?
We have a huge personality, a guy that I think a lot of hockey fans, NHL Network, Mike Rupp, had a great career. This was a guy that I played with earlier in his career in Phoenix. He was my centerman. It was me, him, and Mike Sillinger, believe it or not. And I played a couple games with him, but this guy was a monster of a human. We traded him shortly after, but he went on and he learned he could play, but he could also fight. And he didn't grow up as a fighter necessarily, but he turned into one. And it prolonged his career by probably 6 or 7 more years because he was one of those guys at that time that could protect his teammates, could also score, could hit, could kill penalties. So he was kind of a jack of all trades. He's had a fascinating career and again, just a real struggle at times, his journey. And it's been fun to watch. I work with him a ton at the NHL Network. He's got a great personality, and I think everyone who catches that podcast
was released yesterday as people are listening to this. So Wednesday,
there you go. My fearless leader. My fearless leader right there, AD. Fultz. See, he's got to babysit me. Poor bugger.
We love the NashCast. Wherever folks get their podcasts, wherever they get us, they can get you. Just look for the NashCast on YouTube, Apple, Spotify. Check it out. It's great stuff with Tyson.
Tyson, I got to get back to the pool, my man. Thanks for joining us.
I love it. Enjoy it. I'm jealous.
This is Mammoth Daily.
And a big thank you to Tyson Nash for joining us on our Thursday Experts. Remember, you can watch those alternate casts coming up on the 2nd and on the 4th on SEG Plus and Mammoth Plus. Always a great time. Those clips, those interviews are hysterical. You can also follow along on Instagram at NashCast Official. Adrian, one more note here in the third period on the game against Carolina tonight. Wanted to mention their depth of scoring this year. 9 guys in double figure goal total. So 9 guys have scored at least 10 goals this year for the Carolina Hurricanes. That's tied for the most in the NHL with the Washington Capitals. So even though you look at their leading scorers and you say, okay, like none of these guys are necessarily in the top 10 in scoring in the NHL. Sebastian Aho leads the way with 52 points in 52 games. Andrei Svechnikov is a little bit behind him, 43 points. Seth Jarvis leads the team with 23 goals. Even though maybe those numbers aren't out of this world, they're getting it done from a lot of different contributors up front.
And the Mammoth are well-rounded too, Mike. 7 players with at least 10 goals right behind Carolina and Washington. So it was tough. Last time Utah was there in February. It was right before that Four Nations break. And 7-3. It was a good game until really the later stages of the second and early in the third period. They beat Carolina last year at the Delta Center 4-1 with the 49 saves from Vejmelka. And we'll see Carolina at the Delta Center, Mike. It's a long stretch. That's almost a year and a half between trips to Salt Lake. What kind of life is that? They're not going to be here until Saturday, April 11th.
Well, that's a bummer for them. But what's not a bummer for them is getting guys like Seth Jarvis, like Nikolai Ehlers this last offseason, Keandre Miller. Adrian, I'm curious if you can just think off the top of your head. I'm putting you on the spot here. But in terms of off seasons, and what Eric Tulsky did, the general manager for the Hurricanes, like who had better off seasons than Carolina? I don't think it's a super long list because I don't think there's a ton of teams that in the summer, at least, that in the summer brought in impact players like Keandre Miller and Nikolai Ehlers. Ehlers, their third leading scorer right now.
Only thing that comes to the top of my mind, Mike, is Vegas getting Mitch Marner, in the sign and trade, got the 8-year deal and parted ways with a third liner, basically. So that's top of mind. That's a star, but Keandre Miller and Nikolai Ehlers, that's two guys they traded for Miller. Crafty, creative move there. But yeah, Eric Tulsky, he wheels and deals, doesn't he? Carolina's always in the middle of something.
Yeah, we all know they had Mikko Rantanen for 19 games last year, shipped him off, and now they have Logan Stankoven, Adrian, a guy I saw in the minor leagues. He ripped it up there in the Texas organization. Entering tonight, he's got 25 points in 52 games, 10 goals. So not anywhere near Mikko Rantanen numbers, but Carolina feels, I think, pretty good about the haul they got for Mikko Rantanen, and they were kind of getting made fun of and dragged a little bit for the way that unfolded a year ago, but they certainly acquired some assets for Rantanen and made the most of it. Taylor Hall having a good year as well. Good to see him just healthy more than anything. But 27 points for Taylor Hall, 12 goals, not anywhere near the numbers he had earlier in his career when he won the Hart Trophy back in 2018 with New Jersey. But still a contributor up front. And again, they're enjoying Ehlers too, a guy who Winnipeg really misses right now. And the Jets without him has them near the bottom of the standings, among other things. But you have to think with Ehlers, it's a different scene in Winnipeg.
That's my first thought with Winnipeg. It's like you realize you just lost one of your top forwards for nothing. He left in free agency, and you replaced him with Jonathan Taves, who hasn't played in a couple years and is almost 40. So that's why I've wondered, like, why hasn't that been brought up more with Winnipeg struggling? Like, they just lost one of their top players for nothing.
And they lost a player that had something that not a lot of guys on their team had, which was that high end speed, right? He had the ability to take the top off the defense, to use a football term, and they don't have a ton of other guys that can do that up front. AD, it's our third period. We wanted to get to kind of some gossip. Is that what I saw on the sheet?
Yeah, let's get to what you're hearing, Mike. You mentioned in your morning after on Tuesday, you stepped out into the hallway. There were some folks there. You all were grabbing popcorn and pretzels and peanut M&Ms and just kind of shooting the breeze in between periods. And you heard some nice feedback, some good reaction to the Mammoth as a team.
Yeah, that was some folks from Tampa Bay who right after the game made it a point, like, you guys are really good. They were impressed with us, and that was good to hear because the folks in Tampa Bay have seen a lot of winning hockey over the last decade or so under John Cooper. But it is funny, Adrian, you learn so much in these conversations out in the hallway, in these press boxes. And for those who don't know, everywhere else in the NHL is different than the Delta Center. Delta Center does not have a press box, right? You can come up and say hi to us at the top of section 7 like we hope that you do. But we're kind of amidst the crowd. Other places, the broadcast crew, the media, the scouts, the GMs, they are all elevated, usually in a gondola or a press box that's kind of attached to the back wall way up top. So the view's not as good. But you have a media area with snacks and water. There's always tea and coffee, always, everywhere tea and coffee, which is, the tea is great for me. I'm not a coffee guy. But, if your voice is a little raspy on a back-to-back like it was in Florida, a couple cups of tea help soothe things. But then you're also bumping into people. You're bumping into people from the other team. You're bumping into, maybe a scout or a media member, and you're kind of updating each other. Hey, how's it going? Looks like you guys have been doing well recently. And that's when the other broadcaster will say, "Yeah, we're doing well. I tell you what, the difference right now is we're getting saves. Yeah, you know what? I tell you, like right now, the power play, it's carrying us. Yeah, Nick Schmaltz has been the difference. Like him being a two-way guy at the center position now, like that's been the difference. So it's an opportunity to kind of go beyond the game notes and just be very candid and off the record with the other broadcasters, and those conversations never make it on air, but they can kind of spark some last second research if you have the time, or help you frame things on air. So those informal conversations are very important from a business perspective, but also, Adrian, it's just fun to connect with everybody. And a lot of especially play-by-play broadcasters are cut from, if not the same cloth, maybe the same batch of cloths. Most of us seem to get along pretty well. So it's always really fun to connect with the other broadcasters, catch up on their lives, but catch up on how the team's doing as well. So just wanted to peel back that curtain a little bit on kind of the inner sanctum of the operation, if you will.
Yeah, I'd say 85% of play-by-play broadcasters are, all the same, right? Easy, fun, conversational, like to go have a good dinner. And then there's 15% that are just weird, and there's no connection. And you're like, meh, we play that team and so, and he's weird. you could go back through the leagues over the years, and I'm sure we'd have the same guys.
Yeah. And we know a lot of this. We know a lot of the same guys. I was really lucky in the American Hockey League. In our division was incredible. Bob Kaiser in Grand Rapids, Ben Gislason in Iowa, Aaron Sims in Milwaukee, and like Billy Gardner and Jason Shaver in Chicago, all of them. Peterson and I'm not trying to leave anybody out. But anyway, it's so much fun to chat with guys, and it's part of the joy of what we do. I think, Adrian, is getting to hear different guys' perspectives, catch up on different guys' stories. You know who reminded me of you was, and not in any way the call. Like the call is separate, but just like the way you guys go about your business. Dave Mishkin in Tampa Bay, who just hit 2,000 games, by the way. Just hit 2,000 games. Congratulations to him. But longtime voice of the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's famous for his eccentric goal calls. I don't think the broadcast sounds anything the same. I don't think you guys sound anything alike talking to each other, but just the way that you guys are all in, and you live, eat, sleep, and breathe the team, and just the interaction. I was talking with Dave, and I'm like, this is like dealing with Adrian right now. That's a compliment. That's a compliment. It's a guy who's been in the league a long time and is incredibly kind, and loves his Tampa Bay Lightning.
No, I think that's a really nice comparison, Mike. That's a nice guy, and I've heard him speak before, and he gets excited, and he's animated, and sometimes the goal calls are loud, and he said, talking at ECHL meetings back in 2008, somebody asked him about his goal calls, and he said, I get excited when we score, and I'm not apologizing that I'm happy, and I'm excited when we score. And I thought, it's probably the best answer I've ever heard in my life. Like that's a great answer. That you're excited. That's why your goal calls are fun and energetic and get played on Dan Patrick. So that's my my Dave Mishkin note. I was wondering where you were going with that, Mike. Absolutely. Had
Were
no
you
idea.
scared there for a second?
No, not at all. I was excited to hear.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not even gonna give you a chance to compare me to anybody. One of one over here, AD. One of one. But it's a joy to talk to different guys, and just wanted to share that insight. Anything else before we wrap up and send people on their way, getting ready for tonight's game against Carolina, 5 p.m. Mountain Time puck drop. So you can tune into the pregame as you're getting ready to drive home along the Wasatch Front. Another early one here, and then the Mammoth will be home for 3 before the Olympic break.
Last road game, Mike, until March. We'll go more into the schedule on Friday's episode because there's not too many road games left, honestly. So enjoy that last road game until March. Getting on an airplane on the charter for the last time until March. Your Olympic break plans excluded, but enjoy it all, Mike, and bring home 2 points for us.
Well, I'll do what I can, but it's already been a successful road trip for the Mammoth, as Matt McConnell and Nick Olchek were saying and on yesterday's show. It's time to get greedy. We'll talk to everybody here coming up tonight on the radio. You can listen on 97.5 FM, the KSL Sports Zone, the NHL app, and the KSL app as well. Thanks, everybody.